You've suggested that you wanted to create a libertarian nation, and I've seen articles that suggest that you're in the process of actually securing some islands or land to create this nation. Have you identified any potential sites?
So I can't talk about the potential sites, but I'd like to clarify that we're trying to create the world's first non-nation. It won't actually be a government. There will be no centralized government. There'll be an initial constitution and a set of rules that go with the land titles, and everybody will have to abide by those laws. But there isn't going to be any sort of central entity that controls that or enforces that, or there's not going to be one small group of human beings bossing around everybody else with threats of violence. And if you're a libertarian, obviously you should love this idea. If you're not a libertarian, you think we do need government, you should love this idea, because then when we set up this non-country and it goes crazy and it's a horrible, horrible, horrible place that nobody wants to live there because of rampant crime and victimization, you can point to that and say, see, there's proof why we need a government. So if you're a libertarian, you should love it. If you're not a libertarian, you should love it. No matter where you are on the political spectrum, you should love our attempt to do this.
All right, well, how much land do you think you're going to need for this non-nation?
Well, the more the better. We've already raised more than $100 million of private capital, and we're looking at the right way to allow the public to participate, to contribute as well. And I don't think it's unrealistic to think that we could raise $500 million, $1 billion, maybe even $2 billion worth of cryptocurrency. And so the more money we raise, the bigger a chunk of land that we can buy.
Sure.
And we're not just buying the land, we're buying the land and paying the government to grant us sovereignty with that land. So it'll be the world's first geographic area without a nation state, which I think will be a wonderful thing. And if it's even half as big a success as we think it's going to be, I think this can be a model for the rest of the world to follow. When people see, wow, look at how much wealth and value and what a wonderful place was created, more and more people are going to start doing that with more and more pieces of land around the world.
Well, are there any strategic requirements for this non-nation's location?
So the basic requirements we have is we want it to have a seaport of some sort.
Right.
We want it to be near major economic powerhouses, so we have great trading powers partners. We would like it to have an airport. We would like it to be out of a war zone. So those are the main things we're looking for.
Sounds like in the middle of the Pacific.
No, we want it to be close to other existing economic powerhouses, so we have traders to be by.
Okay.
So some of the areas that are high on our list would be the Caribbean or the Mediterranean. It seemed like good areas to start out with.
Well, this non-nation would have land registries, so it could manage that. Would there be any issuance of like passports? I mean, you are a citizen of St. Kitts, and St. Kitts has been very public about how they're selling their passports to investments made by people. And they're not the only one that's trying to do this. I mean, do you think that there's a need for documentation that, their passport is accepted I think 141 countries you can actually travel to with their passport without a visa. Is there a need for those type of government documents? I mean, while internally it doesn't need to have a government structure, externally, does it have to have something?
So our thought at this time is that we won't be issuing any sort of passports. We won't have any sort of centralized government to issue those. Maybe there's a business opportunity there for new businesses to issue IDs based in this jurisdiction. But at the moment, everybody in the world, for the most part, already has a passport of some sort, and we're not interested in continuing the status paradigm. So people can use their existing passports, but we're not going to require that they have some new passport from us. People can be free to do whatever they want and use whatever form of ID they want that's accepted by whoever wants to accept it and not accepted by whoever doesn't want to accept it.
Okay, but this utopia that you've created, is it going to you want it to be centrally located and have a seaport, have an airport, have the capability of having a large enough land? Is there any need for security for this? I mean, are you looking for working with an existing government who you can buy the land and then have them basically allow you to be a sovereign country for protection? I mean, is there going to be anything there from the security standpoint?
Yeah, everything's negotiable in the initial sale of the land. So perhaps there'll be some sort of a negotiation where the initial government that we purchased the land from will provide some sort of security. But there's also lots of interesting options how cryptocurrencies can help provide for security as well, and including national defense. So there's lots of interesting things that have been enabled thanks to cryptocurrency
Such
that were
as?
never possible before the invention. Um, Such as bounties to help secure the people within a particular geographic area against outside foreign aggressors.
Okay. Do you think that there's going to be a need for any taxation to pay for like these airports and the seaport and the maintenance of the seaport and roads and infrastructure, water, sewer lines, electrical lines, the whole entire power grid? Or how's that going to actually work?
So the short answer is all of that will actually work without violence. The more detailed answer is that people love hospitals, people love roads and bridges and airports and all these sorts of things. And things that people like, they're more than willing to pay for it without violence. They'll pay for it voluntarily. You don't have to have one small group of people bossing everybody around, threatening them, saying you have to pay for this new airport or this hospital or this school. Otherwise, we'll send you to jail. People love hospitals and schools and airports, so they'll pay for them voluntarily, and it's not going to be any issue whatsoever if getting people to pay for things that they like. Where I do think it'll be a problem is for things that people don't like. So I don't think you're going to be able to get people to voluntarily come together and pay for a bunch of guns and tanks and bombs to drop on people on the other side of the world, which is exactly what we have happening in the United States and all sorts of other countries around the world.
Right.
People aren't interested in paying to murder people on the other side of the globe. And the only way that people can get them to pay for that is through taxation, which is the moral equivalent of theft. And in our new non-country, there won't be any of that sort of thing. It'll be a completely voluntary society.
Well, Elon Musk has had a lot of people volunteer for his trips to Mars. How many people have expressed interest to move to this non-country?
We have been overwhelmed with people signing up and emailing and contacting us and wanting to help, including multiple billionaires with a B at this point have reached out to us wanting to help. So that's and traditional billionaires, not billionaires who made all their money recently in crypto coins either. So that's pretty exciting to see just how much interest there is from all sorts of successful established businessmen around the world.
Have you thought of a name for this place?
The current working name is Free Society, and our website is freesociety.com.
Okay. For all of you who want to actually learn more about it, that's where you're going to go. Now, I've interviewed Congressman Jared Polis, who's a founding member of the Congressional Blockchain Caucus. And in my interview, he indicated that he does not believe the U.S. government will be implementing blockchain in any meaningful way for at least 10 to 12 years. Do you consider that a reasonable implementation timeline?
It's really hard to say. As I think it was Ray Kurzweil who pointed out that things always take longer in the short term, but always happens much faster in the long term than you expect in regards to the amount of change.
Right.
So I've been involved in Bitcoin almost 7 years now, and it's amazing how far the ecosystem has come, but we still have a long, long ways to go. But I would be shocked if there's not, just an absolute huge amount of adoption, far more than the amount that we've had in the first 7 years since my involvement. I think we're going to see a lot more than that in the next 7 years. But
What are the risks for
we'll find out as
non-adoption,
time
though?
goes by. I think the biggest risks are just retarding the rate of economic growth for the entire world. And the way to improve the world is through economic growth. It makes every single person on the planet's standard of living better. And so we should do everything we can to increase the rate of economic growth as quickly as we can. And if you look at it, the countries that are poor, they can't even afford to have clean water or clean air, these sorts of things. So if you want to protect the environment too, it's through economic growth. It's only the rich countries that can afford to even start thinking about those sorts of things. So the more we can get government out of the way, the faster the rate of economic growth will be. And cryptocurrencies and the blockchain and all that is an incredibly powerful tool to speed up the rate of economic growth for the entire world. So let's get at it. Life is short, and my life with the traditional human lifespan is about half over, but I'm very optimistic that thanks to future technologies, we're going to be able to extend human lifespan by a huge, huge amount. But those new technologies need to come into existence and need to be created, and that happens through economic growth.
Right.
So let's start growing the economy.
Well, one of the examples you gave to me as a good use case for government blockchain or use of blockchain would be land registries. Now, that's really more on the local level. So states and counties and cities actually manage that, not the federal government. Is there a federal government use case that you feel that would be worthwhile?
So I'm not a fan of governments, period, to be honest. I think that these land title registries and all of this can be better done for the world through private businesses. And if I can give one plug, I guess, in regards to the federal government, there's a very interesting man who's running for not president of the United States in the 2020 election. His name is Adam Kokesh, and his entire platform is that if he is elected, he will proceed with an organized dissolution of the entire United States federal government and turn everything back over to the state and local level. And I think that there's a lot of people around the country and around the world who would love to see the United States federal government completely done away with. And that won't mean that the hospitals and roads and bridges and schools will disappear. All that can still be handled at the local and state level. But what a fantastic thing. And maybe people with cryptocurrencies all over the world can even donate to his campaign. So
Okay.
what an interesting idea for a presidential election.
Do you
So
have his
I'm really
website?
looking forward to seeing how much traction he can get. I think it's probably
Okay.
adamkokesh.com is probably the website at the moment. But if you Google Adam Kokesh, it'll come up. Kokesh, I believe is the
All
last
right.
name. And anyhow, very interesting idea that I'm a big fan of and a big supporter of myself.
That sounds like a lot of fun.